Hunting the Shadows. Hunting the Shadows. Hunting the Shadows podcast and the Midnight Road YouTube channel, Denwave and Carr Productions, may use some copyrighted materials without specific authorization of the owner, but contents used herein falls under the fair use copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes of criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, research, parody, and conjecture. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that otherwise might be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in the favor of fair use. Hello, everyone. Welcome, come on in. This is another episode of Hunting the Shadows. I'm your host, Dennis Carroll. We're going to have, I think, an interesting show tonight. We're going to go into the very dark corner of the paranormal, definitely. And I think you're going to find this a very interesting and hopefully a very informative episode. This is about one of my favorite subjects, the werewolf. And the werewolf is a very interesting supernatural type creature. Although some people tend to sometimes classify it as a cryptid. It is far from a cryptid. Okay, it is a being unto itself, all by itself. The werewolf is, and to me, the interesting thing about the werewolf is he's part human, and yet he's supernatural in his current state when he's a werewolf. So that's an interesting part of him to me. Another thing about it is that we're going to bring his cousin in, the Dogman, into this discussion a little bit tonight too, along with some other cryptids. So I think you're going to find this a very interesting show. Well, it's been a very busy week paranormal wise, and I think we're due for another edition of Nighthawk's paranormal news newscast. And just recently, Priggeson, as we call him, real name, I like to call him Priggy. Well, supposedly he has met his demise, and there are rumors that his jet was shot down. And of course, if this is truly the case, I'm really amazed that he lasted this long, because Putin is a cold-blooded and ruthless killer. He learned his trade when he was head of the KGB back in the old Soviet era, and he has wiped out a lot of people over time. I think one of them was actually his brother-in-law. So he is very cold and ruthless. So I'm surprised Priggeson lasted this long. So that's over there on the other side of the world, but it may affect us too eventually. Definitely somewhere down the line. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. She wrote here, War Criminal, We got a lot of, let me get the comments going here. We've got a lot of people checking in here now. And um, we got Nighthawk High Strangeness pod channel going too on that. So we're on 3 different formats right now. And we're on the Nighthawk High Strangeness podcast channel. We're on the Nighthawk regular Facebook channel. And then we're on my channel, which is the Midnight Road Excursions into the Unknown channel. So we're hopefully getting on out there and getting more people in. Like I say, like and subscribe. Okay, that's the main thing. Let's keep that going. Hello, Tracy, Aussie Sue, Juno. Good to have you here. Some of the families checking in here tonight. Definitely. I think we're going to have a very interesting show, and I'm going to get right into a lot of this because we're going to have a lot to talk about. But the werewolf is a fascinating thing, and that's what I titled the show tonight, The World of the Werewolf. What's his POV, huh? What's his point of view on things? And we're going to kind of look at that a little bit, too, and especially if you're laboring under the curse of the werewolf, and that's an interesting part of all this as well. Hey, Overbuilt. And prophet lady said, pray for Russia as they have a new leader trained up on the way out. Somebody. That's the bad thing about getting rid of Putin. There may be somebody a whole lot worse than him waiting in the wings. That's the way this goes, folks. Evil is running rampant in the world, and it is gaining its foothold ever more every day. So we've got to realize that, and they will affect us definitely one day in the future, for sure. But getting back to the werewolf, okay, let's talk about the werewolf a little bit. Werewolf, of course, is a shapeshifter. And as I've said before, most supernatural entities have that ability to shapeshift. There's the interesting factors in the werewolf because he has that demonic connection as well. And I think that, to me, that is a interesting part of where he has his power base plugged into the demonic. That's what brings about his change. And of course, the classical folklore werewolf was sort of really a warlock, in that respect. And the werewolf transformation was the casting of a spell. In order to become like that. So in that way, it sort of has a connection to the Native American skinwalker in that respect. I know they may go about it in different ways and there are different beliefs in it, but I'm just saying they have that kind of connection. A lot of stuff in the paranormal is definitely connected when you look at the big picture on it. Hey, Marie, how you doing? And so we've got to understand that the werewolf is a supernatural creature, but there are other aspects of the werewolf that we want to look at, and also Dogman as well. To me, it's very interesting that Dogman has some interesting connections with the werewolf, although they are two supposedly similar beings, but they're still different in their aspect because the werewolf, as I said, sometimes he's a man or a woman, as the case may be. Sometimes he's human, and sometimes he's not quite human. He's a supernatural creature. But now the Dogman supposedly is Dogman 24/7. That's it. He's always Dogman. He doesn't change usually, as far as we know, into anything else other than Dogman. He's always Dogman. So he doesn't. So he's really not shapeshifting. Okay, when you look at it that way, he's really not a shapeshifter, or is he? There are many stories that say that Dogman can actually change shape. He look like a deer, he look like a cow out in the field, it look like a stump in the woods. There are some people that swear Dogman can do this, and some people say Bigfoot, by the way, can do some of this as well, supposedly. So here's a question I like to put forth to a lot of researchers out there. What do you think about this? What if some of these cryptids, and I'm going to talk about the cryptid picture here in just a moment. What if some of these cryptids are really elemental spirits of some sort. That's an interesting thing. And we do know that spirits can take on from time to time. They can shapeshift into solid form. Okay, they can do that sometimes when they want to. The demonic is very good at that. And elemental spirits may also have this ability. That's where you get the very famous Wendigo kind of a thing at. It's sort of an elemental type spirit as well, but it can be also a solid form. Now take a look at the werewolf for a moment. The werewolf. Let's take his point of view. Let's look at his point of view. He is usually a very evil person. He or she is a very evil person, and they have an agenda that they want to carry out. Maybe they have a revenge thing going on about someone. Maybe they have some enemies they want to take care of. Hey, Susan, Scott. They maybe they need some kind of a closure for some sort of something. Maybe they feel they've been wronged and they want to get even with somebody. You got to look at their point of view. That's where they're coming from. Although that doesn't excuse what they're doing, but I mean that may be how they look upon it. That's the way they see it through their eyes. But now there's another aspect of the werewolf we have to look at. When you change into the werewolf, you also want that psychotic killer kind of thing going on. You just want to randomly kill people. Just go out and massacre, murder people, tear them limb for limb, and enjoy it. That is very psychotic. That would put some serial killers to shame. Think about it. That's bad. And that is the actual attribute of this werewolf. He wants to do that. He wants to give himself over 100% completely to the animalistic side of human nature. And we know what that can do, don't we? Okay. And he's wanting to do that and do the things that have no rules, that have no remorse, do the things that he wants to do in a wild, abandoned sort of way. And he doesn't care who gets in his way. And there are many aspects of werewolves actually cannibalizing people that they attack and kill. Oh, yeah. That they will certainly eat certain people. I think Peter Stubb was one of them. It was a cannibal, basically. That's what he basically was. So you gotta look at that aspect of what's going on with it as well. And so, to me, that's another facet. When you see through the eyes of the werewolf, when you see his world, what kind of an awful, terrible, dark, evil, psychotic kind of a world that is. Think about it. That is very bad. To me, that would be very demonic, would it not? Definitely. And he is, like I said before, hooked in. He's plugged in to that demonic power. Okay, and that's where all this is driving that, where it comes from. And this, of course, would be something that the demonic would dearly love to do. This is something that it would, be the icing on their cake. They would love that. They would really be up for that. That's right down their alley, if you want to throw out some metaphors on that. Definitely, they would want to do that. So that's the world of the werewolf, the other way. But there are other types of werewolves we got to talk about first. And here's a strange, interesting connection between the werewolf and the vampire. Supposedly, vampires can take upon themselves the form of a wolf. That's interesting. So that kind of makes them in some semi-quasi type werewolves, does it not? That's an interesting aspect of the vampire lore. And here's one more thing. When they do change into this werewolves, okay, we got to forget about Hollywood, okay? You're thinking about the Wolfman thing. That's a different creature, okay? The werewolf goes on all fours. He's just a big monster kind of a wolf, but he's a wolf. He looks like a wolf, okay? Although he may look more awful than a normal wolf, a natural wolf. He may look more terrible. And he may be bigger in size. He still kind of has that shape and that form of a wolf. Now, the Wolfman, who can be someone that suffers from the curse of the werewolf, and that's what we're going to talk about here in a minute. Someone who suffers from the curse of the werewolf has still part of his humanity clinging onto that. Okay, he's still partially, and he looks like a man, but he also has the attributes of an animal, the wolf. So there's that mixture that can cause that. That's the wolf man. Okay, that's why we call him the wolf man. And I'm talking about the main one in the movie. I'm talking about that's the part of the werewolf curse when you get that. Now, there are two types of that curse that's going on usually. Okay, and one is the fact that if you have a very bad curse, and there can be two types, you can have a curse that actually turns you completely into a werewolf, and he runs on all fours and snaps at people and bathes at the moon, right? Okay, but you can also have a curse, and I'm going to talk about this. You can also have a curse that makes you the wolf man. Now, let me say something about that. Usually, according to legend, if you are bitten by a werewolf, you can carry supposedly the werewolf curse. And if that happens, most of the time when you change completely into a werewolf. Okay, you're not a wolf man. But if you're laboring under a werewolf curse that has been passed down through your family line, most of the time you will change into a wolf man or wolf woman, as the case may be, or she wolf. You will change into that. Okay, so there's a difference in what's going on here with that. Okay, so we got to bear that in mind, definitely. So that is where you get the curse of the werewolf thing going in that. Okay, and that's a horrible. Let's see their POV for a minute, their point of view. Let's look at how that would be. That would be a terrible thing to live under, would it not? Look at the original movie, The Wolfman. He went around wanting people to kill him. He did not want to do what he was doing. He was a cold-blooded killer. He went out and killed people, and he felt very remorseful about that because he was a nice guy. He didn't want to do anything like that. He would rather die than actually live under this curse. And I can understand where the guy was coming from. It's a very sad situation. You don't want to go on and keep killing people in this manner, especially. It's not self-defense. Okay, it's not justifiable homicide here, folks. This is actually brutal killing going on, tearing people limb to limb, tearing their throats out. Why would you want to live like that? If you're a really good person, that would be a terrible thing to be under. Think about it. And to me, the one thing that sets that apart from everyone else is that the werewolf having this remorse, it would be a terrible thing for him, and it would be something that you would not want to live with. Think about it. You would want to die, but what if you couldn't die? And that's what was happening with Lawrence Talbot, the Wolfman. He wanted to die, but he had to die in a certain way, and usually it involves silver, of course. But let me say something about that right quick before we get deep into any more stuff here. The silver thing, okay, folks? Silver's good. I've got some silver around here somewhere. It's a purifying, supposedly, metal. That's why it's venerated so much. But that's not what kills the wolfman or the werewolf. That's not what does him in. Okay, that's not the force and the power of it. It's not the silver bullet itself. It's the bullet is blessed. That's where the power is at. It is a blessed object, and that's what puts this evil down. See, so when you look at the werewolf, you got to remember one word: evil. Okay, whether you're laboring, unfortunately, under a curse, or you want to be a werewolf and change into one, you still are laboring under evil. And it may be taking you over. That's the way evil does, okay? You give in to evil a little bit, and it's just like darkness pouring into your soul. And finally it develops you, and you become nothing but a part of that darkness. You're no longer human. You're no longer a person. You no longer have a soul that way. That's what happens. You hear a lot of talk about selling your soul, but that's what happens. That evil, that darkness pours into you and takes over completely, and you no longer have any light or positive stuff left in you, okay? That's a bad state to be in, and that's the state of the werewolf. He is laboring under this evil. He has become part of this evil, whether he wanted to or not, as in the case may be. Or maybe he does want to be, and that's even worse when you think about it, okay? It's one thing to be cursed, but it's another thing to want it, to want to be like that. That's very evil, definitely. So what we're looking at here is a definite evil animal, without a doubt, and that's the werewolf. But the only way to dispatch the werewolf, there are supposed to be certain ways to do it. You can cut his head off like you do with a vampire, but mainly you can put him down with a blessed object. It can be a blessed knife. It can be the head of a cane. It can be a bullet. It can be an axe. As long as it's blessed, that's what does the job. And the same thing goes with the vampire. You don't just walk up and stick a stake in a vampire and think you're going to put it down. It has to be a blessed object. The power of God has to move against the power of this evil. That's the only thing that puts it down. That's the only true solution for it, folks. Okay, that's the way that works. And that's not just folklore. That is fact, because many people can attest to that working. I know without a doubt I have seen the power of God clear out places, people, situations. Without a doubt, it is a real thing, a very viable solution. And you know, I've said before, and I'll say it again, I never tell people what to do unless it's something I know that works. If it doesn't work, I don't want to mess with it. Why waste your time with it? I'm not only going to tell you what works, what I've seen work and what I know work with my own eyes, okay? And so that's what I can tell you about that. And it does work, and it does put evil down, whatever kind of evil you're dealing with, but it has to be backed up with faith. That's where the power lies. Faith in God, not yourself, not faith in the bullet or faith in the cross, faith in anything else but yourself. That's what you got to deal with. You can't have faith in yourself. You got to have faith in God. That's why, as Jesus said in the Bible, with God, all things are possible. He didn't say just a few little things and this and that. And all things are possible. And that is the basis, the foundation of true faith. And that's what goes against this evil that we're talking about tonight and puts it down. Okay, that's what works. Although it's not, it doesn't hurt for the knife to be silver. It doesn't hurt for the bullet to be silver. There's nothing wrong with that. I would feel good if it was, because, like I said, it is a purifying metal. But that's not what the power base is on it. Okay, don't trust the silver. Trust God. That's the main thing. That's what works. But anyway, getting back to Dogman, the cousin, the red-headed cousin of the werewolf. He's an interesting study, you know, and I've been studying him a lot. Matter of fact, I think I had a run-in with him one time, and I'll have to talk about that sometime. But I actually had a run-in with him, but I didn't actually get to see him right out in the open. I saw him, but not plainly. But I'll talk about that some other time. That's for another show. But here's the interesting thing about the dog man. He is a cryptid, supposedly classified as a cryptid. Let me talk about cryptozoology for a minute, okay? And I've been involved in it for well over 50 years now. And there's some interesting aspects of cryptozoology, but it's being used today in a lot of wrong ways here, folks. Okay, it's being talked about and thought about in many different wrong ways. We got to look at the big picture here. When it comes to cryptids, there are three kinds. Well, there are little sub things on this, but there are three major types of cryptids. Okay, let's look at them right quick. They are the mysterious cryptids. That's the werewolf. If you want to call him a cryptid, that's where we're going to classify him. I don't look upon him as a cryptid, okay? But they're the mysterious cryptids, okay, along with the chupacabra and maybe the Mogollon monster, some other things, even some of the lake monsters. These are the mysterious type cryptids, along with Dogman as well. They're mysterious because we don't really know if some of them exist or where they came from or what the heck they are. You know, that's why they have a mystery about it. That's our motto here at Hunting the Shadows. Embrace the mystery, but do not embrace Dogman, okay? That might be the last thing you ever do. But anyway, these are the mysterious cryptids. Then you've got another kind of cryptid, the unknown. Now, what that means, this is like an animal that you never knew existed, and you find it. You know, you find out that it does exist. That was an unknown cryptid. Okay, and that's a very fascinating part of cryptozoology, to find things that man has never classified or had known exists. That's fascinating. Even dinosaurs, if you were to find a living dinosaur, and we did a show about that, living dinosaurs, if you were to find a living dinosaur, that would be sort of an unknown cryptid, unless it was a well-known, well-classified dinosaur, but that's another story. Anyway, that would be unclassified as unknown. Then you've got a third type of cryptid, the extinct cryptid. This is the extinct animal that we thought had gone extinct, but you find out it didn't. Like, hopefully the thylacine is that way. You know, the Tasmanian tiger, or maybe the ivory-billed woodpecker, or the Carolina parakeet. That would be wonderful if they found out that the Carolina parakeet still existed. That would be a extinct cryptid that you find out is not extinct anymore. And that's a good part of cryptozoology. That's a favorite part of mine, part of cryptozoology, to find things that you thought were gone forever and they still exist. That's wonderful. And that's the good way to look at it. So that's the whole big picture of cryptozoology, folks, okay? That's what it works on. And you got to remember, you need to classify these things, where they need to go, and your respectful thinking on this, and your classification and your study of these things. That's the way you got to take it. So anyway, hey, Crystal, how you doing tonight? So anyway, when you look at these cryptids, you got to remember something, okay? Are they actual things that really, truly belong here? Or did they come from somewhere else? That's another question has always fascinated me. What if some of these don't really belong here? Then you have another aspect of all this. The mythological creatures that people see, like centaurs or goat man, which is really many times, I think, the personification of the god Pan, the god of the wild, or he's really an elemental type spirit. He was a nymph like some of the wood nymphs and the water nymphs and all. But that's getting into mythology. But anyway, I think the goat man would definitely fall under the guise of Pan. But look at some of these mythological things that people are seeing, like griffins, dragons, and all that. And I don't think dragons were ever really truly mythological either, by the way. I believe they did exist, and some may still exist in some unknown parts of the world, for all we know. And in the last couple of shows back, when I was talking about living dinosaurs, about the one that supposedly lives in the Congo, and all that. So that's another fascinating part of cryptozoology. You have to look at that as well. So cryptozoology is not just saying, oh, that's a cryptid. It's a lot deeper, and it goes into different classifications, a lot more deeper study than that. And the more you get into it, the more fascinating it is. It's hard to put it down. If you ever want to try to put it down, you can't, because it is a very interesting and intriguing study into the unknown things of this world. To me, that is fascinating, and always has been a fascinating aspect of it. But getting back to the werewolf for a moment, being he is supernatural. And, a lot of things fall into the supernatural category. Take the shadow people, for instance. And there may be different types, and I think there are different types of shadow people. Some of them are downright supernatural, definitely. Some of them are demonic. And, I don't like to keep going on and on and on about the demonic, but it is a card on the table, and we can't ignore it. It'd be foolish to ignore it. So we have to talk about the demonic from time to time as well. I've been accused of that a lot of times. Oh, Dennis, all you talk about is demons, 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 No, I don't. I've got a lot more interest in demons. Demons, to me, I consider to be spiritual vermin, pests. They're like rats in your house or something. You need to get rid of them, but don't be fascinated by the rats. You know what I mean? That to me, they're filthy, low-down things. There is one type of a demon, by the way, and I'll talk about this in a moment, that is very low down on the rung. He is a very animalistic like kind of a demon. And I think this would be connected many times to the werewolf, okay? Because, like I said before earlier, the werewolf is a very evil, psychotic type killer. It cannibalizes people. It kills just for the pleasure of killing and bathing in their blood. You know what I'm saying? That's just the way this creature does, and it won't stop at nothing. It will kill anybody. It will kill children. It will kill women. It will kill animals. Whatever gets in its way, it doesn't care. It's sort of like a steamroller. It's not going to stop once it gets started. And by the way, let me say this about the werewolf. He's not connected just to the full moon. Okay, that's a Hollywood thing. You know, we got to stop paying too much attention to Hollywood on some of this stuff, and we need to go back to folklore that tells us a lot of this, what we need to know, superstition and folklore. Although a lot of people will say, "Oh, folklore is a bunch of made up stuff," not necessarily. Everything I've said before has a kernel of truth to it, and that's what you look for. When you're looking for the truth, you look for that bone of truth. You have to cut the fat out of the way, okay? And that's the legend. You have to cut that out of the way to get to that bone of the truth, that center of the truth. That's what you're looking for. And that's what our job is, okay? And once you find that, it will tell you a whole lot. There's my good friend, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, in here. Good to see you, bud. And he's got a great book out, folks, by the way. You need to buy his book. It is a great book, definitely. Got a lot of great cryptid stories in it, since we're talking about cryptids tonight. Anyway, the whole thing about the werewolf is it is so evil, so dark and deadly, that it is definitely connected to the demonic. There's no doubt about that. The one that changes into a full werewolf, by the way, not the one on the curse. Although the curse is a demonic curse as well, by the way. You got to remember that. It's, a lot of curses come from the demonic. But he's not tied to just a full moon. He can change any time, day or night, for that matter. But usually they like to do it at night for two reasons. One, they do have an attraction to the moon, whether it's full or not, especially if it's a very moonlit night. They would definitely, because they have that hunter part of them. Okay, they like to go on that hyper, the jazz, as I call it, that hyper activity of the hunt that gets them going, gets their blood going. They like that, and they can hunt better. Of course, any animal can hunt better on a moonlit night, especially a night of a full moon, definitely. But it does have its disadvantage, because darkness can be your friend. Darkness can be your cover. It can be your salvation, especially if you're an animal or a supernatural being like the werewolf. You don't want to come out in the light too much until you have to, okay? And of course, that would be the disadvantage of that. So they like the nighttime. They'd rather do that at night instead of daylight and be seen at daylight. But there are certain, here's an interesting aspect of the werewolf. The werewolf can supposedly change a little ways. He can like grow the claws and the teeth and stop at that if he needs to. He can stop his process because he has complete control over it, not like the cursed werewolf now. He doesn't have any control over it. But I'm talking about the supernatural werewolf now. He can stop that transformation. He can kill you with just his hands and not be a full werewolf at the time. Okay, that's an interesting aspect, isn't it? Or he can rip your throat out with his teeth and still look kind of like a person a little bit. That would look a little bit like the Wolfman we talked about earlier, wouldn't it? But he can do that. He has control. He has complete control over his change, his metamorphosis, his shape shifting. To me, that makes him even more dangerous in some aspects, because you got to remember always that this animal, whatever form he is in, whether completely werewolf on 4 legs or a wolfman on 2 legs, he is still has that mind of a human being, and that's the most dangerous implement on this planet, folks. Okay, so that's what makes him so very dangerous. Well, Marie, I'll answer your question. Yes, the werewolf possessed by a demon. In many aspects, he truly is under demonic possession, although he is cooperating with this possession. Okay, that's why I say Mike makes it so dark and dangerous and evil. He's cooperating. Like I said earlier, he lets this darkness into his being, and it takes him over, and he becomes part of this, and he wants that. So he is cooperating with demonic forces in that respect. He has really, this person has sold their soul. Okay, they've really gone over to the dark side, definitely. And like I say, they don't just turn into a werewolf so they can go out and smell daisies out in the meadows. No, 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 no. They're out for blood. They're out to kill, rip, destroy, and that is the thing that the demonic loves most of all: destruction. And that's what the werewolf is all about. But to me, the other interesting aspect of the werewolf, the sinking part of this, the man in the animal thing, is what makes him so deadly and makes him so vicious. Even an animal might give you a break. You know, I've known bears that maul people actually stop and walk off and leave them alive. The werewolf would never do that. The werewolf would not leave you. You would be an incredibly lucky person on this planet if you got out from a werewolf alive. Okay, from an encounter with a werewolf, because he's not usually going to live. He's not going to cut you a break. No way. But now Dogman has been known to do that. Bigfoot and some other cryptids have been known to kind of cut you a break. You have to wonder about that. They're more animal than man. Okay, because man is not going to usually. I mean, people, it's going to cut you a break. Okay, not hardly. Usually, especially if you're that mean and wicked and evil of a person who wants to be a werewolf, you're not a very nice person to begin with. Okay, so you're definitely not going to get any mercy out of anybody like that, I'm afraid. Um, so anyway, to me, that is another dark aspect of the werewolf. Is this witchcraft, this demonological type stuff that's going on with this guy or woman, as the case may be, and there are a lot of reports of women being werewolves too, not just men. It can go across sexes, definitely. And to me, you got to first be a witch, though, or something similar to a witch, or warlock, as the case may be, in order to take this transformation to the next level. And you got to be in that position where you've actually, like I said earlier, sold your soul out completely. Well, this is a type of possession. And we do know without a doubt that in demonology that there are wolf spirits, just like as there are vampire spirits. And, and that freaks out people a lot of times. They say, oh, yeah, Dennis, you're crazy. What do you mean? You're talking about, you know, werewolves and vampires. That's just stuff in Hollywood, right? No, no, unfortunately, no, it's not. They do exist, but not on the level that Hollywood would have you think them. That's like I said, we got to forget about the movies, and we got to forget about that. And folklore tells us a different story, okay? And so does history. And there are a lot of known werewolves in history, okay? Look at Peter Stubb, I mentioned earlier. Look at the Beast of Govardhan. Look at all these other things that went on. There were definitely werewolves, okay? But we do know without doubt there are wolf spirits, and they can possess people and turn people into animals. Ed and Lorraine Warren had a very famous case of a man who believed that he was a werewolf, and he would actually take on the physical characteristics of a werewolf. His hair would look longer, his teeth would grow longer, his nails would grow longer, and he would have this unnatural brute strength about him that he actually tore a metal cell door off of a jail cell, something that no normal human being would do. And of course, that could have been adrenaline fueled, definitely, but it still falls over into a little bit of the supernatural realm, does it not? And we do know that there are vampire spirits. I've run into them. I know that they do exist. That they are good at taking the life essence out of people, not just sucking your blood, as Hollywood would like to go with that. The blood is a part of demonic rituals and satanic rituals, of course. That's another thing altogether. But the vampires mostly drain the life essence out of people, the life essence of the soul. That's what they're all about. And there are psychic vampires that do this psychically, so to speak. And we've all been around people from time to time who just seem to spiritually drain us, and then physically too drain us of our energy. These are energy vampires, basically. That's what they are. and certain people will do that. And then, of course, you have the vampires that are human vampires. They want to be vampires. They drink blood and they get their teeth fixed and they wear goth and they hang out in vampire societies. They're the human vampires. They're I call that sort of a kind of a sickness. Okay, it really is. Basically, it's a spiritual sickness. We got to understand something about the spiritual things in this universe. We can have a sickness of the spirit, just like we can have a sickness of the body or the mind or the emotions. A lot of people have nervous breakdowns. That's an emotional breakdown. Your emotions are a very important part of your physical welfare and being. Uh, we also got to remember the spiritual aspects of this, folks. You can have a sick spirit, and usually 9 times out of 10, when you're spiritually sick, you have some kind of demonic influence working on you, whether it is full possession or oppression or whatever the case. But that's not the thing with the werewolf. He is inviting this in. I have seen voodoo ceremonies where people invite these spirits to inhabit their bodies, which is not a good thing, folks. Don't ever do that. Don't ever even entertain that thought, because you're putting yourself in deadly danger. You're spiritually and physically as well, but spiritually mainly, because your spirit is more powerful, more important than anything else of your own being. Okay, without your spirit, you're in big trouble. Okay, and to be a lost soul or to lose your soul is a terrible thing, because you've lost yourself completely when you do. As Jesus said in the Bible, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his own soul? So you don't want to get in that position, definitely. But when you invite these forces in to your life or into your body, you're asking for nothing but trouble. I've had a lot of people say, you don't know what you're talking about. That's just something. No, but it's true. I mean, that's the invitation. Do not put out invitations. And that's what the werewolf is doing. He's inviting this demonic power into himself to become this thing that he wants to become. And I have seen the demonic shapeshift. I know they are premier experts at shapeshifting. Okay, folks, they can do it very well. And all supernatural beings have this attribute. Okay, and they say even some people, like the werewolf, who hook up to this spiritual energy can do it as well. And this metamorphosis is not a nice thing either, by the way. You don't just pop all of a sudden you're a werewolf. You tear your skin off. The wolf inside, the thing inside of you comes out. You tear your hair out. You tear this. All of this just transformation is a horrible, sickening thing to see. It's awful. It's kind of like the boo hag. I've told you before about the boo hag, which is kind of part vampire, kind of part shapeshifter. In that respect, the boo hag takes his skin off and goes out and does what he wants to do, and it can steal your skin too, by the way, if it kills you or whatever. That's another story for another time. But anyway, that's the interesting thing about the werewolf. He doesn't just pop out and the hair doesn't just come on him. He has to rip the skin off. He has to take the human part of himself off to become the animal that he must be. That's a horrible transformation. This is nothing fun about it. It's not like, that Michael J. Fox movie about the werewolf in high school. This is nothing fun about this. This is horrible, evil, satanic stuff here, okay? It doesn't get any worse than this in many aspects. Even the vampire, which is basically a reanimated dead body with a demon inside of it, that's basically what it is. It is even along the lines of the werewolf in this respect. It's a horrible transformation, definitely. I wouldn't want to do it. I mean, it's that bad. But you become this thing. And you only have one reason to do this, and it's to do evil. Okay, you're not going to the Sunday school picnic once you turn into a werewolf. That's it. I would hope not. I hope you don't end up there, because a lot of people is going to die if you do. But anyway, that's the world of the werewolf. A little insight into what the werewolf thinks and what he does and how he sees these things through his eyes. The eyes of an insane animal. That's basically what it is. He goes insane for a while. Very much like the berserkers, the Viking berserkers. By the way, that word berserker means bear skin, and then they have a wolf berserker, too. They were worse than the bear berserkers. They actually would attack their own people on the battlefield if they weren't careful. They were just completely wild and insane animals, and they called them werewolves too, by the way. Uh, Interesting aspect, isn't it? Viking werewolves. Think about it. I wouldn't want to mess. I wouldn't want to mess with those guys. Definitely, I would not want to meet up with those guys anywhere, especially not on the battlefield. Uh, Unless I had some very heavy ornament, maybe a machine gun or something might help out. But anyway, they would go crazy. They would lose their sanity, either by drugs or mind induced. You know, the mind's a very powerful thing, folks. The mind, when you get it, you know how to work it the right way, can do wonderful things and very bad things as well. And we have to remember that. Uh, because to me, the interesting part of the werewolf is he's really no longer, he's still human, but he really more animal than anything else, and he's an insane animal. Think about that. He's lost his mind. He's lost his will. Even animals don't act like this under certain circumstances. That's true, Nighthawk. Well, don't forget to join me and Nighthawk on this coming Monday night at 11 p.m. for High Strangeness Paranormal News podcast. Okay, make sure you catch that, folks. It's gonna be a good one. But anyway, you've got to look at where the werewolf's coming from to know where he's going, and it ain't a good place either way you look. Either way, both ways, and that's the world of the werewolf. Okay, we don't ever want to be part of that world, definitely, especially as the victims, especially or as the werewolf, absolutely, because these are beings that are demonical. They are demons, basically, in human form sometimes, even when they're not werewolves, folks. Okay, they're not good actors, no matter which way you look at it. And even the people who are cursed, laboring under such a vile and satanic and evil curse, changes and warps even a good person into a bad thing. Okay, we got to remember that too. That's what curses do. And I've dealt with a lot of curses in my time, and I know how they work. They can make your life a living hell, and they can change you. They can wear you down until they destroy you. And that's what curses are all about. That's why curses are put forth for that very purpose. Spells, dark spells are cast for these reasons too. When they light those black candles and they say those curses, those hexes and spells, and they put that demonic power behind them, they're not doing it for any good reason. Never. It's never a good reason at all. It's only for bad reasons. No, you would not want to cross them at all, Crystal, definitely. And you'd want to stay on these people's good side. Actually, stay out of their way completely. I wouldn't want anything at all to do with them. But that's the bad thing about the werewolf. He could be your next door neighbor, could be your Sunday school teacher, could be your boss at work, and you never know it until one night you cross this path. That might be too late. And like I said, very few people ever escape from the werewolf. Very, very few lucky people ever escape. That's just the way they operate. Let's see now. I'm going to check out some of our comments here. I don't like black candles. They don't. Black candles are not good. Oh, definitely. White candles. If you're gonna burn some candles, burn some white candles, or maybe red ones. That's kind of for love, romance. I think everybody has a lie at the same time tonight. I'm afraid so. We're all overlapping each other. The good thing about these lives is you can go back and watch them later if you missed one. Okay. Late, but hey, how you doing, Stuart? And let's see what we got on. Let's see. Let's see what we got. What else we got here? Comments are moving fast here on me. Okay. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed a look into the world of the werewolf. It's a very another dark corner of the paranormal. And we're going to be doing a lot of that on these shows, but I'm going to be having some guests very soon, just learning the ropes and all this. But I'm going to be bringing on some guests on here. I'll be bringing my friend Nighthawk on, and Grandmaster G. I'm definitely gonna have them on, and I'm gonna have some other people out there. And I'm gonna get in touch, hopefully, with some authors. There are some great books being written nowadays, even more so than ever before in the field of the paranormal. And we need to start reading, folks. That's one thing I've always said. We need to read, 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 read. Back in my heyday, I used to knock 10 books a week out. Okay, don't do that. I don't get to do that anymore. But I try. I keep trying to keep close to it as I can. But there are some fascinating books out there, and I would like to get some of these guys on. My friend Nick Redfern just come out with a werewolf book, by the way, which I would love to talk with him about. So maybe in the future we're going to definitely get some guests on here, and absolutely. And I've just about got the ropes learned on all this, so it takes a while. But the whole thing is, there's a lot of fascinating subjects. That's the thing about the paranormal, the supernatural, and all of this. You just scratch the surface, but what a surface to scratch, you know? There's some very interesting things. And the deeper we go into it, and the more we look at it, it shows us how much more of the mystery there are in this universe, Embrace that mystery. Mystery is a fascinating thing. It is the spice of the universe. It makes everything really worthwhile in many aspects. Where would mankind be without his mystery and his will to solve those mysteries? Definitely. All right. Well, I appreciate you all being here tonight. Definitely. And we have about a few more minutes left here. So I'm going to read. You got any questions at all? Now's the time to type them out. Send them to me on the comments here. I love questions. There are no stupid questions, only stupid answers. But there are no stupid questions. I love all questions. Matter of fact, when I used to do lectures, a lot of lectures, that was my favorite part, is I get to throw the floor open to questions. To me, that's I like to see what my audience is thinking about and their reaction to what we've been talking about. To me, the aspects of the paranormal never get old, and it's a fascinating subject. Of course, there's a lot more to this world than just the paranormal, definitely. But it overlaps with so many different things in our lives. It's hard to ignore. And a lot of people who say, "Oh, I don't believe in that stuff. I don't get all that stuff and all that," they're cutting a real big part of their life, of their existence off, and that's not a good thing. That's just foolish thing. Like some people say, "Oh, I never watch black and white movies." Think of all the great movies they're missing. Think of all the experiences they're missing by limiting their horizons. Let's not ever do that. We want to keep our horizons broad and far ahead of us so we can reach out for them and keep doing that. That's the main thing. We keep learning and we keep discovering and exploring the things that we need to do. We should do that, because if we ever stop doing that, we're really basically dead, folks. We may not be in the ground or in a crypt or whatever, but we're just basically dead, spiritually dead too, if we don't keep doing that. And the more we learn, the more we talk about these things. And this is such a fascinating and great way to do this, these podcasts and stuff, that we can meet like friends around a table and drink coffee and talk about these things and get all that stuff out in the open and discuss it. That's amazing to me. They didn't used to do this. Like I say, I've been in this for over 55 plus years now. We didn't do things like this. You didn't come out and talk about things like this. People say, "Oh, you're ready for the funny farm," They thought you were crazy. Gone, people didn't used to talk about it. They didn't want to talk about it. They were afraid to talk about it. So now I would tell you, but you'd think I was crazy. I've heard that so many times. I wish I had $1 every time I heard that. I'd be a rich man. I'm not in this for the money, though. I am not in this for the money. I'm not in this to sell books. That's not what it's about. I want to share the knowledge. I want to share the knowledge and get it out there. That's what it's about, It's not trying to make money. If we were here trying to make money, boy, we in the wrong business, okay? That's not what this is about. This is not that. It's not trying to sell books or promote ourselves. It's not the ego. Leave your ego at the door, okay? That's what I tell them. Don't bring your ego in here. Ego messes up a lot of things. It'll mess this up too. No, no, no. Leave that ego where it needs to be. Hang it up on a coat rack somewhere. Don't bring it in here because we don't need that. We need honest discussion, not about all about the money and all that. I've had people come to me over the years and say, Dennis, how much you charge for that? You know, how can I charge you for that? I don't charge for that. It's not the money, okay? I'm here to help you or to help you understand or both of us understand, help each other to understand things. That's what it's all about, you know? It's not a one-way street, it's a two-way street. That's the way it should be. But that's the, you know, and we're not down, you know, it's not about the evidence. It's not me. You know, I said this before and I'll say this real quick. I can have my picture took with Elvis and Bigfoot tomorrow. You'd never believe it, even if it was absolutely true. You know, you're not going to believe it. That's not what it's all about. Me trying to convince you of anything. Okay? Do the research yourself. You're smart. You got a brain. You got some brain cells left. Do the research. You know, don't take my word for it. Don't take anybody's word for it. But like, it's my friend Nighthawk says, question everything. You got to ask the questions. Okay? You got to ask the questions or you'll never find the answers. And that's what it's all about. Well, I appreciate you being here tonight. Definitely. And like I said, we're all family. We're looking out for each other. We support each other. And that's a wonderful aspect of all this, too. Okay. We got to remember that. And I want to thank my moderators, Shiro and Crystal. I want to thank my moderators for being here tonight and doing their job. A very important job. And I want to thank everybody, Freaky Geek. Appreciate you being here. And Bigfoot, Rob, Michigan Rob, my good friend. And buy that guy's book because it is a great book. I love those stories. You know, I have read in my career thousands upon thousands and thousands upon case histories, sightings, and all that. It never gets old. It's fascinating to see what other people have seen, to look through things like we're looking tonight through the eyes of the werewolf, to look through their eyes and see where they're coming from, you know? And that's what being human is all about. Of course, the werewolf is not human, is he? Not really. But that's what us being human is all about. Well, it's time to, the old clock on the wall is about to fall off, so it's time for me to head on out. And I appreciate you being here tonight, and I thank everyone. And remember to share us out, subscribe, pass along the word. Share us on Facebook, okay? Share us with your friends. I have 6,000 friends on Facebook. Share these things out to everybody on Facebook. Facebook goes around the world, definitely, just like YouTube. So please share us and like us and share us and all that, heart and all that stuff. And next week, we'll see what else we can get into. I'll announce it's going to be kind of a special one next week, I think. So until then, until we meet again, friends. Via Candias.